Our guest this afternoon is Dennis Brager. Dennis is a California State Bar certified tax specialist. He's a former senior trial attorney for the IRS office as chief counsel. He's the founder of the Brager Tax Law Group. That's an LA-based litigation tax controversy law firm. The firm's practice is limited to representing clients having criminal and civil disputes with the IRS and so on. He has been on the Fox Business News channel and Good Morning America and other shows, and we're glad to have him with us this afternoon. Good afternoon, Dennis.
Good afternoon, Don. How are you?
I'm just fine, thank you. I've been talking the past couple of weeks about the tax situation on the shows, but basically what I think our focus is planning to be today is I'm sure that the COVID-19 has caused a lot of people that had taxes due to not pay them. And if you are one of those folks who can't pay your taxes this year, I believe Dennis is going to share with us the topic, 5 ways to negotiate with the IRS when you can't pay your taxes this year. So if you wouldn't combine them all, but if we can take them 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, give us the first tip or suggestion, if you would, Dennis.
Okay. Well, the first thing, and I don't want to just talk about negotiation, because that's only part of it. Just want to talk about some smart things that people can do if they can't pay their taxes. And the first one is to file your tax return even if you can't pay it. And the reason that I say that is because the IRS charges you a penalty of 5% per month. Every month you file your tax return late. And that penalty can go up to 25%. So please, whatever you do, if you haven't filed it already, you've got a 5% penalty. For another month goes by and you go to 10 and then 15 and so on to 25, get the tax return filed.
So if I got this straight, Dennis, is if people are out there and they said, well, I don't have the money to pay my taxes this year, so right now I'm not even going to file, that's a huge mistake. What you're saying, even if you can't pay, whatever you do, file the return, right?
Absolutely, you got that right. And sometimes people will even say to me, well, I don't have all the information. I didn't get my W-2, or I didn't get my 1099, and I'm not quite sure. I don't have enough information. And to those people I say, file your tax return. Do the best you can. If you need to go back and amend it later, then that's what you're going to have to do. But again, maybe I'm repeating myself, but get that tax return filed. The next thing is, once you get it filed, if you don't have the money, one thing you might want to do is consider borrowing the money. And the reason I suggest that is because I mentioned the 5% penalty for filing late.
Right.
There's another penalty for paying late. And that one can be as much as 1% per month on top of the approximately 5% per year interest rate that you're going to pay. So if you can borrow money at less than about 10 or 11%, it's probably a good idea to borrow it and to pay it over to the IRS.
Great suggestion. Okay, continue. This is very interesting and enjoyable because they're practical things. And again, we're talking to somebody who's been on both sides of the coin. So continue, please, with some suggestions and advice.
Another thing you can do if you're not in a position to borrow the money is you might want to consider withdrawing funds from your IRA. And the Congress and the IRS has put into place some favorable ways of borrowing from an IRA if you are affected by COVID-19. Now, before I go through these ways and a little detail about that, I would say that, I'm not an investment advisor, but IRAs are a good thing. They're a way to save for your retirement, and the professionals all seem to agree that we're not saving enough for our retirement. So, think long and hard about whether or not you want to withdraw the funds, but if you come to that decision, know that you can do it.
Can I interrupt just here for just 1 minute, because I'm sure you can answer a question I'm a little confused about. With Ameritrade, I have a Roth IRA and I have a standard IRA. But did I hear right or am I mistaken that if I want to take some money out of my standard IRA this year because of the COVID-19 situation, that I do not have to pay taxes on that next year, or is that a false statement?
Well, it's not quite accurate. So let me explain.
Okay.
You will have to pay tax on it. You can spread it over a 3-year period, so you pay a third each year on the amount taken out. You will not be subject to the normal 10% penalty that's normally charged if you are younger than 59 and a half. So normally you pay a 10% penalty if you're under that age, but the IRS has waived that. And you'll also have the option to put the money back into the plan on a tax-free basis at any time within the next 3 years. So this is not tax-free, but it's better than the usual situation.
Okay. Well, thank you for explaining that, because I was confused about that. Now continue, if you would. I interrupted, but I'm glad you answered my question.
So the other thing to keep in mind is that these rules that I just went through don't apply to everybody. It only applies to a limited class of people, and those are individuals who have been diagnosed with COVID-19, or whose spouse has been diagnosed with COVID-19, or if you're experiencing adverse financial consequences as a result of COVID-19, such as you've been quarantined, you've been furloughed, you've been laid off, you've had your work hours reduced, you're unable to work due to lack of child care, you have a reduction in your pay or self-employment income. So all of these things will qualify you for the IRA withdrawals in the terms I mentioned.
Interrupt one more time real quickly. The things that you mentioned, do they have to be documented?
Well, you don't have to document them when you make the withdrawal or when you file your tax return, although I could imagine that maybe some brokerage firms will ask for documentation. This is brand new, so I don't know what the brokerage firms are going to do. But keep in mind that if you do get audited by the IRS somewhere down the line, you will be asked for this kind of documentation. So
okay.
I would suggest you keep some information around for the next 3 years should you happen to need it.
Continue, please.
Yeah, so I've some ideas for maybe borrowing money or withdrawing from an IRA, but let's these things appropriate for you. Maybe you don't have an IRA. There's nobody who wants to lend you money. What else can you look at? Well, now we start talking about going to the IRS. And one thing we can do is we can go to the IRS and ask for an installment account, the opportunity to pay these taxes over time. Now, the first thing you want to know about this is that even if you enter into an agreement with the IRS to pay your taxes over time, they're still going to be charging you that approximately 5% interest. And in some situations, you're going to be paying late payment penalties as well. So this is not a free lunch. And again, why you might want to consider some other options first. But you definitely should be able, in most situations, to get a payment arrangement with the IRS.